Hello, people there in FM, which is just probably not, but if you happen to stumble upon this video, today we're going to be doing a mock draft when there's 1 month to the draft, and I am re-recording this because I lost my audio for the first pick. But we're going to go ahead and pick Fernando Mendoza, and then the audio should come back right now. I have the Jets going Orville Reese. They could go with edge rusher like David Bailey or Ruben Bain, but I'm going Orville Reese because he looked really good down the stretch for Ohio State, and he's really athletic, and to be honest, he could play that edge and that linebacker position that the Jets need for both positions, and honestly, he may be more of an edge rusher than a linebacker for the Jets initially because they signed Demario Davis, but I think that he could fill both needs for them. And number 3, I have the Cardinals going with Spencer Fano, because there's no other QB that they could take. Defensive tackles, I don't love up here. Linebacker, they could go with Sonny Styles, but a little bit of a reach at 3. And then tackle, I think, is their main need on the offense. That would be best available right now. And most people would go with Francis Magnolia. But arguably in this league, Magnolia could be more looked at as a guard, and Cardinals don't need a guard. I think that they need a tackle right now because they signed Summer Malu in free agency, so I think Fano's a really good tackle. Obviously, he looked really good at Utah all of his years. And yeah. At number 4, I do have the Titans going with Jeremiah Love. The reason for this is they need to help Cam Ward out on the offense, and to be completely honest, at this position at 4, I don't know if I would love any of the wide receivers, because Carnell Tate, he was really good at Ohio State, but you have to keep in mind that I still don't think he's a top 4 player in the draft class. Jordan Tyson, maybe he would go top 4 for him, so injury prone, but Jeremiah Love, we know, is an amazing player. He has a great potential. I think he's better than Ashton Jeanty was last year. The only difference is he played on a better team than Jeanty, so the stats are a little lower, but I think he has higher potential than him. And overall, he's a very good player, and I think he can help through the catching game and the running game for the Titans. And the only reason I'm going with him here instead of a defensive player is because during free agency, they spent most of their money on the defense, and plus for the offense, they signed Wan'Dale Robinson to this big contract, so I don't think they would go with a wide receiver. And I would love to see him team up with Tyjae Spears, because Tyjae Spears is underrated, I think. Number 5, I have the Giants going with Sonny Styles. I know they signed Tremaine Edwards, but I still don't see it. Because, he's getting up there in age, and Sonny Styles could learn from him, I think. Sonny Styles looked really athletic at the combine. He's kind of a demon. And, I think he could make some great plays for them because the Giants kind of need some help towards that, secondary linebacker kind of area because their rushing's really good. But I think Sonny Styles is really good and has high potential. Looked really good for Ohio State down the stretch. At number 6, I have the Browns going with David Bailey. I think this would be a great addition to line up on opposite side of Myles Garrett because obviously by the time David Bailey would be off his rookie contract, Myles Garrett would be 33, 34. So they could be looking for another great replacement. David Bailey looked really good at Texas Tech. And honestly, I think he's a better pick than Ruben Bain would be because towards that mid to the end section of the season, Ruben Bain didn't look that good for Miami. But I think David Bailey looked pretty consistent around the whole season. And to be honest, he's been gradually getting better over his career. And I think he has high potential. He has long arms, which I really like. He's fast. He's 6'3", 250. And they could go with an offensive player, but as I said, I don't really love Francis Magnolia going this high because he's viewed as a guard. And then any other tackle I don't even think would be in conversation. Wide receiver is an option, but they have 2 picks, so they have a little bit of flexibility. So I would go for best available player. At number 7, I have the Commanders going for Carnell Tate. They were another contender for Jeremiah Love, I think, if Jeremiah slides. But due free agency, they don't need any more defensive help anymore. I think that they paired up their holes really well. They spent most of their money on on day 2 and 3, and I gave them an A for that free agency. And I think that Jaden Daniels needs some help. He looked a little rough this season. Not even just him, their whole offense when Marcus Mariota played too. Scary Terry was saying that this may be his last year playing for the Commanders, so some long-term help wouldn't be so bad for him. At pick 8, the Saints, I'm going with Ruben Bain. I like this pick because if Cam Jordan is not coming back, because they still haven't re-signed him yet, they need some new D-line help there. And as I said for wide receivers before, I don't feel anyone else comfortable going at 8. Mekhi Lemon is arguably like the next best, and I could see him going here, but Ruben Bain was projected to go like even higher throughout the season, so I think that this slide has to come to an end. At number 9, I have the Chiefs going with Caleb Downs. They need some secondary help after we saw from free agency. Their safety was gone, whoever that was, and then their whole secondary just went to the Rams, which is kind of funny, I would say. They have 2 picks in the first round, so I think they have a little bit of flexibility, and people are saying they need a wide receiver. I don't agree, so they still got some young dudes in Xavier Worthy and Rashee Rice. And I don't know if I feel really comfortable taking Montour Delane if I was the Chiefs, when you know Caleb Downs is going to be a success because of his athleticism, and you've seen that. So at number 10, I have the Bengals going with Francis Magnoa. I think anyone on this O-line would help, because in free agency they helped a little bit with the O-line. They helped mostly with the defense, but Francis Magnoa is obviously the best available offensive lineman right now, so I'm taking him. At number 11, I have the Dolphins going with Mekhi Lemon. Dolphins, interestingly, traded away Jalen Waddle to the Broncos like a week ago. That was an interesting move because they signed Malik Willis, and now they don't have anyone to throw it to, because who do they have? They have Tutu Atwell at wide receiver 1. Obviously, they have to pick a wide receiver this high. I know they have 2 picks in the first round, but if they wait, I don't think they're going to get someone who could play a wide receiver 1. And Mekhi Lemon obviously played really good this season. He won best wide receiver. And his skill set, he's only 5'11", 195, but he plays like he's like 6'1", 6'2". He comes down with these catches. And it's actually, he's a really good player with high upside. At number 12, I have the Cowboys taking Montour Delane. They really need help in that secondary. I don't feel comfortable taking any of the linebackers this high. And anyone in the D-line, I don't feel that comfortable taking with. So obviously the best next for their secondary is Montour Delane, I think. Dylan Diamond's also another option, but safeties aren't valued in this league. I think Montour Delane looked really good with LSU this season. And he looked good throughout his career. And I think that he's obviously not the best corner. I think Jamard McCoy is better than him in the draft class, but due to the injuriness of him, I think Montour Delane is the best available right now for the Cowboys. At number 13, I have the Rams going with Monroe Freeling. The Rams are on win now mode. They have a really good defense after the free agency. They had a really good offense that most people stayed for. And with Isaiah Hartenstein up in the air right now, Monroe Freeling could be good for the Rams' future O-line, and he could impact the season. At 14, I have the Ravens going with Kenyon Sadiq. Lamar Jackson needs someone to throw it to. Zay Flowers is not a wide receiver 1. They've been managing it for the last few years, surprisingly, but they need some help. And to be honest, I don't feel comfortable taking any of the wide receivers, as I said previously, this high up. So Kenyon Sadiq is essentially just a really big wide receiver. He looked really good at Oregon. He's really fast. He's really athletic. And I think he could become tight end 1 and even pass up Mark Andrews. I think Mark Andrews could be traded at the deadline, and Kenyon Sadiq could be the future for that team. And I think Isaiah Likely going to the Giants is going to be felt early on if Kenyon Sadiq is not picked and they don't get someone that could really back up Mark Andrews to begin with. At 15, I have the Buccaneers going with C.J. Allen. I know they just picked up Alex Anzalone in free agency, but I like C.J. Allen. I think that he could help in the pass game. He could help in the run game. He looked good at Georgia. And honestly, I think he can make an impact. 6'1", 235. He's young. He's only 21. With the Jets' second pick in this draft, I'm going to have him go with the guard from Penn State. As I say, I'm not even going to pronounce it, not trying to offend anyone. But that's how Geno Smith, I guess, is going to be their starting QB at this point in time. We'll see what happens during draft, but we're going to help him out. Again, O-line, build off that trend from last year when they drafted Amar Membu, who looked good this year. And yeah, at 17, I'm going to have the Lions taking a swing and going for Jamar McCoy. He has the potential. Obviously did not play this season due to injury, but before that, his 2 seasons before looked amazing. I think he's the best potential corner in this draft. Obviously, we don't know because we haven't seen him play in a while, but he's only 21, and I think the Lions have any chance of their window still being open. I think they should just swing and try to get the best corner in this draft, even if it doesn't work out. And their secondary didn't look amazing this season. I know there were some injuries, but still, might as well take a swing. At 18, I have the Vikings going Dylan Dineman. Dylan Dineman wasn't really talked about during the season, but after his performance at the Combine, his draft stock has been rising. As I said, safety's not valued, but Vikings don't really need much, I would say, except for the 9 situation, but they got Kyler. We'll see how that works out. And I like the athleticism of Dylan Dineman. And I think this class, between Caleb Downs, Dylan Dineman, and McNeil Warren, I think safeties may be a little bit more valued in this league. And I think teams need to start seeing that. At 19, I have the Panthers going with Jordan Tyson. I really like this pick. I've been mocking this pick for a while, and I really do like it. Jordan Tyson, obviously, we know he doesn't have the best health record, but when he does play, he's the best wide receiver in this class. And I think it could be really helpful for the Panthers. The Panthers are in this weird state where they're not win now, but they're not tanking. So, like, I think they should get Bryce Young some help, because other than T-Mac, who won Offensive Rookie of the Year, Jalen Coker looked shine at times and looked really good, but I think the Xavier Legette experiment is over, so I think they should take a swing and just see what happens with Jordan Tyson. At number 20, I have the Cowboys taking Keldrick Folk with their second pick. They have to replace Micah Parsons. They have failed to do that since they traded him away. And Keldrick Folk was unfortunately on one of the worst SEC teams. Not because of their defense, but because of their offense. And I think he has high potential. He's fast, he has long arms, he's 6'6", 285. He's a speedy power rusher. And I think he has high potential, and he falls just because of his production not being high, but he has the attributes to do it. At 21, I have the Steelers taking Omar Cooper Jr. I know they just got Michael Pittman Jr., but by the time Michael Pittman Jr.'s deal is over, he's going to be like 31, and Omar Cooper would be like 25. And Omar Cooper looked really good down the stretch at Indiana. For Fernando Mendoza, he was wide receiver 1, and I really liked his play style. He was athletic, he was kind of elusive, and I think he's not really an instant impact for the Steelers, but the Steelers have been looking for a good wide receiver 1, because I think DK is more of a wide receiver 2, and I think Omar Cooper could fill that hole. At number 22, I have the Chargers going with Akeem Mesidor. I don't really love the rushing game. I never really loved it, even when they had Joey Bosa. I know they have Khalid Mack, but this is his final season, I'm pretty sure. And Akeem Mesidor is not even that bad of a player. He only slides in the draft because going into his rookie year, he's going to be 25. By the end of his rookie deal, he's going to be 29. He's only fallen because of his age, not because of his production. His production this year was 13 sacks. Looked good in the playoffs. And that's the only reason. At 23, I have the Eagles going for Emmanuel McNeil 1. I like Emmanuel McNeil-Warren. Obviously, he played at Toledo, so the competition wasn't the best. So maybe that boosts his stats a little bit, but he's athletic. I like the way he moves. They lost Reed Blankenship to the Texans. They don't really have any safety help. They need some secondary help. And to be honest, I think Emmanuel McNeil-Warren is a case kind of like last year of Mike Green, where the stats looked really good on paper, but he slid into the second round just because he went to Marshall. This could be a similar situation where maybe McNeil-Warren falls to the second round just because the school he played for in the competition. But I think he's a really good player, so that's why I'm going to have him going here. For the Browns' second pick, I am going to have him going to fix that wide receiver room with Denzel Boston. I like Denzel Boston. I don't love him, obviously, but he's big. He runs his routes like he's a small wide receiver, but he's actually, 6'4", 209. And he brings some into the room that the Browns don't have, which is height. Because I'm pretty sure the wide receiver one's Jerry Jeudy, which is like 5'11". Isaiah Bond, wide receiver 2, is like 5'10". So I think this could be an interesting dynamic for whoever's throwing the ball, whether it be Shedeur or someone else. At 25, I have the Bears going with, here he is, Caleb Banks. Caleb Banks obviously did not play well. Well, he didn't play much this season because due to injury. But I don't think that's like gonna affect his stock because he doesn't have a long history of it. It was just this season. But even when he did play, he looked good. Looked good at the Senior Bowl and the Combine. He's a good pass rusher and a run stopper, 6'6", 330. And I think the Bears could use someone on that line. I don't love that line for them. For 26, I'm going to have the Bills going with Peter Woods. Peter Woods, before this season started, was a top 5 projected person to go in this draft. Unfortunately, Clemson did not have the season that they would like, and the players did not perform well. You could say that for Peter Woods. You could say that for T.J. Parker, Avion Terrell. But still, I think he has high upside, and I think it's crazy that he would even be sliding this far into the draft. But still, I think he has upside, and let's team him up with Ed Oliver, which is looking decent. He looks decent in his season with the Bills. But let's get some new life on that Russian. They did get, what's his name? Bradley Chubb on that rush. But I would like to add to that. At 27, sorry. At 27, I have the 49ers going with Blake Miller. Obviously, the last few seasons, they've been working on their defense in the first round. So let's go have them taking an O-line. Try to prevent some of those injuries that happen because their O-line isn't the best. Rumors of Trent Williams being moved before the draft. So let's get him from fresh life. Hopefully Brock Purdy does not get hurt, even though Max Jones is a reliable backup, but still. At 28, I am going to have the Texans going with Caden McDonald. They could go with Caden Proctor. I could see it. But let's get some help on that D-line of arguably the best defense in football. Caden McDonald is a big run stuffer. He's 6'3", 326. And with someone like Tim Settle leaving, let's just fill in with some younger talent to stuff that run and keep them one of the best defenses. At 29, I'm going to have the Chiefs going with T.J. Parker with their second pick. Because they need some young life. They lost some of that defensive talent. Obviously, a lot of it. Leo Chanel, their secondary. So I think this draft really has to focus on rebuilding that defense. They still have some cornerback holes, obviously, because they didn't draft anyone with these picks. But T.J. Parker, along with Peter Woods, as I said, weren't playing for really anything. That's why stats dipped a little bit. But they actually just need any edge rusher they can, the Chiefs. And right now on the board, I would argue that T.J. Parker is better than Cassius Howell. I would argue that I don't even know who the next best one would be. Maybe you say Zion Young. But no, I like T.J. Parker. And then with the Dolphins' second pick, I'm going to have him going with Avion Terrell. I just realized that the last 5 for them have been on Clemson. But these are good players with a high upside. Avion Terrell, he was actually one of the bright spots for Clemson this year, even though I've been saying that they weren't playing for anything. He was at a bright spot, and the Dolphins really could have took anyone, I'm going to be honest. They need help literally everywhere, except for QB, which they can even still use help at, because I don't know about Malik Willis. At 31, I'm going to have the Patriots going with Max Ehon-Aker. Did not pronounce that right, but I liked him at tackle at Arizona State. I think he's better than Caden Proctor. The Patriots, maybe they don't go O-line in the first round. I could see that. Maybe they don't. Maybe they go defense. Maybe they go wide receiver. But we saw their O-line in the playoffs. Wasn't amazing. So maybe get someone on the other side of Will Campbell would be pretty good. And then with the last pick in this draft, I'm going to have the Seahawks going with Colton Hurd. Colton Hurd, he did not play amazing this season, but it's between him and Brandon Tise. But they need secondary help. They literally lost most of their players in free agency. They could go with safety here, but there's no clear safety available right here unless Emmanuel McNeil falls, like I said. But yeah, I'm going with Colton Hurd. Alright guys, this is the draft recap. I know some of these takes are probably casual because I'm not going to claim that I'm the best analyst ever. But if anyone watches, probably not. I would appreciate a like and opinions in the comments. Subscribe maybe on the road to 10, as I said. And thank you guys.